Hello, welcome to Brand Square. I'm Nanda Sibol, Senior Director of Brand Strategy at Anthem, based in San Francisco. For those of you not familiar with Anthem, we are a global creative and branding agency. Thank you for joining us. Today's topic is our special edition of sightings with highlights from the 2015 Winter Fancy Food Show. We had a lot of fun putting this presentation together. I will talk about trends and insights and also give you a sneak peek of what Anthem does for our clients every day. So the format is roughly 15 to 20 minutes of presentation, and then I'll have a few minutes at the end for questions. So for those of you new to Sightings, Sightings is a periodical published by Anthem that provides inspiring observations from around the globe. And we look at these insights in four key buckets: marketing, innovation, branding, and design. And we put out a special edition of Sightings for the Winter Fancy Food Show. The Summer Fancy Food Show is in New York City. So the winter one is for the West Coast, and it's the largest specialty food show. There are over 1,400 exhibitors from the U.S. as well as abroad. And the categories include snacking, meats, condiments and seasonings, beverages, ready-to-eat meals, confections, baked goods, frozen foods, oils and vinegars, baking, and dairy. Now, Anthem's been reporting on the Fancy Food Show for the past 5 years. The images you're seeing to the right are from last year's report. This year, the predominant theme was around sophistication. And this is in contrast to last year's show, where there was much more focus on wholesome, natural, healthy, and even raw food, snacks, and beverages. So the purpose of the report in today's talk is to inspire and inform your future product innovation. And so to that goal, as we go through the trends, we will showcase how these trends can be applied to both food and non-food categories. So let's jump in. We picked 4 trends from the report: gourmet grazing, the end of last call, a visit to the apothecary, and tea party. Let's start with gourmet grazing, which really epitomized the overall theme of the show. There was a slate of new products featuring refined ingredients and flavors. These products took cues from fine dining and put them into everyday snacks. So here are some examples. Dialing up layers and layers of flavors is Wonderfully Raw's snip chips in flavors such as cheesy herb truffle, chipotle lime cilantro, lemongrass chili dippers. In addition, there are Brussels bites and tamarind apple crunch and chili pumpkin seed crunch, which is pictured here. Then there's Pop Gourmet, offering potato chips with savory flavors such as Rogue Blue, which incorporates blue cheese. We also saw Ooh La La feature high-end ingredients such as saffron and black truffle in their potato chips. So what's driving this trend? We think it's consumers' desire to add a bit of sophistication to everyday products, and at the same time, consumers are becoming more open to exploring the unfamiliar. So how might we leverage this insight? As I mentioned earlier, we'll share a bit of what and how Anthem uses trends and insights to help our clients. So we started by conducting cross-functional ideation sessions that included our designers and our strategists to identify concepts. We narrowed and built on ideas that had the most potential. Next, we had our creative team sketch some designs to bring our ideas to life. So you'll see that on the next page and for the other trends we'll be discussing today. So please keep in mind these ideas are meant to be illustrative. They're not fully vetted or validated product ideas. So at the show, we noticed several items incorporating dragon fruit. As a way for consumers to explore this exotic and unfamiliar item, we came up with dragon fruit salad dressings and marinades. And we discovered that the dragon fruit taste profile could really fit nicely in the condiment category. So we illustrated it here in this image. So you see a visual of the dragon fruit, then you see a salad, and then potentially what a package could look like. So now, looking more broadly, how might we leverage this insight for non-food categories? So first, let's consider the different ways you could communicate sophistication. You could do it through materials, technology, design, or access. And by access, we mean exclusivity or limited or restricted access, which adds an air of prestige. A great example in the marketplace today is Nest. They incorporated both technology and design into everyday items, such as thermostats and smoke detectors, to add a level of sophistication. We also identified other categories of everyday items that could benefit from this trend, and you'll see that to the right, furniture and clothing. So within furniture, consider the simple chair. We could use distinctive materials, maybe technology, and even design to imbue a greater sense of sophistication. So for clothing, the unique factor here might be access. Could there be a line of clothing that when you purchase that gives the shopper special access to the designer or to custom fits and styles? So moving on to our next observed trend, it's the end of the last call. So we saw many brands use wine, beer, or spirits to drive interest at shelf and bring excitement to their products. So as you can see from the examples here, there were close-in categories of syrup and jams, and also further out categories such as chips and jerky. So we have the Woodford Reserve with bourbon vanilla simple syrup. We have Jam It Jam with wine-infused jams, Burt's British potato chips with Guinness flavored chips, and Duke's, which had small batch smoked meats with honey bourbon beef jerky. So our view is that these categories are borrowing the associations and equities of alcohol to enhance the status and discernment of their products. So once again, we ideated an application of this trend within food. We came up with maple whiskey glazed deli meats. So it's a line of alcohol glazed and smoked meats, and you could serve these at the deli counter or as prepackaged cold cuts. So we took a staple category like luncheon meat, and by adding an alcohol element, there's an immediate elevation of the product in both flavor and perception. So stepping back, we identified several factors that contribute to alcohol's perceived cachet. If you look at various beer, wine, and spirits, they often refer to source, such as country of origin, like this is a product of Ireland, or a single vineyard. They refer to process, such as barrel aged or triple distilled. There's often a craftsman involved, like a master brewer or a winemaker. And they also leverage nomenclature, such as Blue Label or Number 21. So again, this is meant to be illustrative, but applying the insights and elements, we dreamed up the following non-food concept. It's a line of men's grooming products. And so this might be a little hard to see, but there's a wax seal indicating that it's made in San Francisco. And so this speaks to the source. Then it's produced in small batches, which speaks to process. And it's signed by the master barber or stylist, so you see that signature on the packaging. And the name itself, private stock, really conveys exclusivity. Next, the third trend focuses on design. So several brands leverage graphic language and structure from classic apothecary bottles to communicate the efficacy, care, and quality of their thoughtfully crafted syrups, extracts, and enhancers. So some examples. Organic Fare offers cooking additives and soda syrups. We have Star K White extracts, which are liquid extracts. That brand was actually established in the 1890s, so this really reflects their brand heritage. There's Finest Kind, which is a line of tea-based mixers. And the large number or years that you see refer to significant events in tea history. So what is it about the apothecary design? It serves as a shorthand to convey specific attributes and perceptions such as efficacy, quality, and craftsmanship. So again, we ideated around the specific therapeutic benefits associated with apothecary. And imagine this food example. It's ice cream therapy, a line of ice cream with ingredients and flavors thoughtfully chosen to evoke a mood. So products are named by mood. We have joy, comfort, calming, and they're supported by ingredients that link to that mood. For example, calming features chamomile and vanilla. So one might ask, why the resurgence of apothecary? So our perspective is that it addresses several current macro trends. We have natural, which is about using herbs and botanicals. It's about nostalgia, like mom or your grandma knew best, or something that's time-honored, things that have withstood the test of time, and also a kind of a desire for simplicity in our really complicated world. So based on these learnings, we identified other categories for consideration that may benefit from this trend. Household cleaning, makeup, fragrance, even skincare. So our last trend for this talk manifested itself in the tea category. So tea is breaking out of its bag, quite literally, to reveal a whole new side. The popular drink found its way into a variety of forms, appealing to consumers' desire for familiar brews in different and unexpected categories. So from bag to box, we saw Purity Organic. From leaf to salt with Gustus Vitae. And Owl's Brew entering evening occasions with tea mixers for cocktails. So as mentioned earlier, Anthem has been attending the Fancy Food Show for 5 years, and tea has always had a strong presence there. And we've seen the typical kind of category trends, flavors, functional benefits, and new designs. But those have really been very expected. But this year, we really thought tea stood out in transforming itself. And they did that by challenging category norms in structure, form, and occasions. So, as a food application, our team really enjoyed pulling together this idea. It's tea gummies. So it's tea and fruit-flavored gummies that provide an instant treat and pick-me-up. And we challenged each norm. So there's a new form for the tea in a gummy. And it's a new occasion. We moved tea from drinking to treating. And while it leverages tea structures, such as the outside box and the tea bag, it's applying it in a whole new category in confections to be really disruptive. So non-food categories can take advantage of this approach as well. The interesting learning we realized as we worked on tea gummies is that by challenging one norm, you're likely to end up challenging several norms. So you can do this through innovating with disruptive structures, exploring new forms, liquid, powder, solids. You can also consider different occasions like the when and the where with day parts and channels. So there are some current examples of this. There is Help, which really challenged the entire value proposition for first aid, and they backed it up with structure, design, and marketing communications. And cosmetics have always been great at innovating on forms and structure, so that middle image there is really the latest, and it's a paper makeup. And the papers are infused with makeup, so consumers just wipe on to apply. The third image shows sports equipment that entered not only a new occasion, but a new venue, the office. And they created a combination treadmill and desk product. So you can work and work out at the same time. So to summarize, some key takeaways. Sophistication, status, discernment is likely to be on the upswing, especially given the latest economic trends we're seeing on income bifurcation and increased technology. It's really about accessible refinement. Another take on sophistication and status is that sense of exploration, experimenting with the unfamiliar. And you need to remember to balance that as appropriate with a bit of familiar as well. We also saw products borrow equities, both visual and verbal, from other categories to instantly associate their brands with those sought-after attributes. So we saw that with both apothecary and alcohol. And craftsmanship is important too. It's about that care or quality and expertise that comes from someone in the know. which is very valued in today's marketplace. So overall, we're seeing that consumers are much more willing to experiment, so brands really have more permission than ever. So in addition to the trends we just covered today, our full report features several others. We take a look at jerky, which is really being redefined and being refined. We have sans fuss, which speaks to typography. We have the name game, which is about names that are playful and highlight personal connections. Taste of fancy is about ingredients and flavors that are likely to draw in consumers looking for adventure. And finally, eye catchers. It's about new products that quite literally caught our eye and they stood out from the rest. And we think they could be a trend of the future. So, pardon the pun, but if you're hungry for more, we'd be happy to take you and your teams through either a live review of sightings, or we can talk about tailoring a brainstorm session to apply these trends and others to your categories and brands. So that concludes the talk. I'll now open it up for questions. Okay, I'm seeing a question here. It's what other food categories could benefit from the sophistication trend? When you think about that trend, it's really about taking everyday items and making them more refined. So think about categories that maybe have a very high penetration, so staples like canned foods or soups or beans, even bread or dry pasta. So those all could benefit from that sophistication trend. All right, another question. What is driving the consumer need for status and discernment? I think a large part of that is really the millennial generation. They're looking for things that are shareable. It could be, kind of a topic of word of mouth. I think they're looking for stories to tell, and status is being defined much more broadly. Status is really what you get from discovering something new or unique. So they want to be very much unlike the Joneses and find the next big thing. So thank you again for joining us today. We hope these trends and insights spark some ideas for you.